So I wanted to talk about something that happened last night. I was on a security shift at a campground overnight. There's this giant music festival in town, and I'm going to be doing the same thing tonight. A few things happened, and none of them that bad. But the one thing I wanted to talk about is notable not for what happened, but just for a larger sort of societal thing that it illustrates. It's not bad. It's hardly on the list of major societal ills. It's just something I don't quite get, and I've never been able to articulate it until this example. So, part of my job was checking bracelets, making sure that nobody who didn't have a bracelet was allowed in the campground. Some campgrounds allow visitors, this one doesn't. And so I was checking bracelets of people who came off the shuttle from this music festival, and anybody who didn't have one couldn't come in. Simple stuff. Now, this kid came late, and he told us a story, and the story was perfectly believable, and it turned out to be absolutely true. I believed him every step of the way, which is that he showed up late. He did originally pay for the cabin. He got his money refunded. And then at the end of, because he was going to show up late, he basically paid his friends who were staying in that cabin instead of paying the person who owns the place. So fine, that, whatever. But I'm not allowed to just let him stay without a bracelet, so I had to call the owner because he told me to do that anytime there's any. Anyway. So the owner showed up, and this was about 1:50 in the morning, and this kid was not in a good mood. And we ended up talking to his friends, and they were super chill. They just wanted the whole thing resolved. They wanted to go back to bed. And eventually, after a lot of back and forth, we got this kid a bracelet so that he could stay. Fine. The main thing is that this kid was grumbling the whole time about everything. Every single thing anyone said, he'd find a way to pick apart. I don't think, it's not to the point of like borderline, or not borderline, antisocial personality disorder, where like you have to be an asshole no matter what. He was just pissed off and things weren't happening the way he wanted them to. And even when we were going to get him his bracelet so that he could stay, he was grumbling at the person who owns this place, just like, it's a great place. I stayed here a year. I'm not trying to scam you guys. What do you think? Anyway, the whole time, just wouldn't shut up. And I was trying to direct this towards me because, I got this guy out of bed, which again, he told me to do, the owner of the place. But I was just like, hey man, no, I understand. This is a frustrating thing. I'd be frustrated in your position. This is an easy thing to mess up. I could have messed it up. Because what happened was they didn't realize that the price for the cottage was per person, right? They thought it was per cottage. Easy mistake to make. As I say, I could have made it. Just some 19-year-old hockey players just trying to plan a trip. They didn't check all the boxes, right? Whatever. Not a sin. So while we were going to get this bracelet, there was one final straw where I was just like, man, what the fuck are you doing? It was when I said, yeah, I know, this sucks, man. Believe me, I get it. I've been in this kind of situation before, but, you'll be asleep in 10 minutes. He's like, I'm not going to sleep tonight after this bullshit. And I wanted to grab him and say to him, listen, kid, shut the fuck up. You realize that this guy that you're consistently trying to piss off owns these cottages, and I feel like he's this close to deciding you can't stay here just because he doesn't like you, which he's well within his rights to do. So you're getting what you want. Do yourself a favor. Shut up. I didn't say that, of course. I just, it wasn't my job, so... But again, I was thinking this guy's really close to just saying, no, go away. And then I'd have to call the cops again, and they'd have to get him out if he didn't want to leave, and I'd have to stay later and add that to my report, and I didn't want to do that. So anyway, but it was mostly him. Mostly him that he was fucking up. So that's what I wanted to talk about. The fact that people just love to gripe when it's not in their best interests. And I don't expect everybody to be in their right mind all the time, be perfectly reasonable, especially when they're angry and tired and probably drunk. But, I don't know. Even his friends were laughing, like, man, come on, you're getting what you want, just shut up. They were treating it like a big joke, but I could tell that they were just like, dude, like, what the fuck? And that's the thing. I see a lot of people do this when things don't go their way. I don't know if it's an intelligence thing or that they're just not considering the consequence. I've never been in a situation where things have not gone my way that getting pissed off at the person I'm talking to would make better. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, as I say, you don't have to be nice to everybody all the time. It's just weird that people do this. The only reason I can think of is that it's cathartic, but it wasn't for this kid. He was working himself up. He was getting more and more upset, and by the end of the night, he was not happy. He was even worse off than he was when he started grumbling. So I guess I don't get why people do it. It's not a big deal. It's not a sin. Doesn't mean he's an asshole. It's just a little weird. He seemed to be trying to sabotage his own best interests, I guess. Or at least not realizing that that's what he was doing. In the end, he got what he wanted, because the owner of this place was extremely patient with him. But, he easily might not have, and would have been his own fault.